Ms. Denson.
Thank you so much, Senator Hickenlooper. Chairman Cassidy, Senator Hickenlooper, and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to join you here this morning. My name is Liz Denson, and as the Senator said, I serve as the President and CEO of Early Connections Learning Centers in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm also a working mom of a 4-year-old, and I'm here both as a child care provider and as a parent whose life was also shaped by having access to child care. I was raised by a hardworking family. Without affordable, reliable child care, my mother would not have been able to work, and I likely wouldn't be here with you this morning. Childcare isn't a luxury. It is an essential infrastructure for families, employers, and our economy. Early Connections is celebrating 129 years of providing services to Colorado families. We operate 4 centers, partner with family child care homes, and participate in Early Head Start and Head Start, Colorado's Universal Preschool Program, and the Child Care and Development Fund through Colorado's Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP. My testimony focuses on what CCDF looks like on the ground and what happens when that funding is disrupted. Childcare is foundational to workforce participation. Parents cannot work without safe, reliable care. In Colorado, more than half the state lives in a childcare desert, and only about 7% of eligible families receive assistance. The result is an estimated $3.1 billion in lost income each year because parents cannot work, advance, or pursue training without childcare. To make this real, I'd like to share a brief story of one family we serve. A young couple in our community said yes to an emergency foster placement of 2 siblings, including an infant. Saying yes also meant figuring out how to keep working while supporting children in crisis. Because of CCDF-funded childcare, they were able to do both, maintain their full-time jobs and follow their hearts to support children who desperately needed a safe and stable family. This is what childcare assistance does. It allows families to say yes and prevents crises rather than reacting to them later. At Early Connections, we serve about 300 children on a typical day, and approximately 60% rely on CCAP to access care. For providers, CCDF funding isn't supplemental, it's structural. If Early Connections were to lose the funding that supports those children, the impact would be catastrophic. A short delay might be survivable, but a prolonged loss would force classroom closures, layoffs of teachers and support staff, and the elimination of hundreds of childcare slots in our community. And this isn't unique to us. Across Colorado, 2,462 providers accept access to CCAP. Most serve a mix of subsidized and privately paying families, and many would be unable to remain open without CCAP funding. If providers lose all of their CCAP children, many would lose a large share of their enrollment. And in many communities, there are simply not enough families who can afford to pay private tuition to fill those seats. When providers close, it affects everyone, including families who pay privately, because the overall supply of childcare shrinks for the entire community. This brings me to program integrity. Accountability matters, and providers like Early Connections take stewardship of public funds seriously. We operate under multiple layers of oversight, including audits, real-time attendance tracking, county eligibility verification, twice daily parent verification using their fingerprints. These safeguards are real, and they work. Responses to misuse must be targeted and proportional. Broad funding freezes place the burden of enforcement on children, families, and responsible providers, destabilizing care and making long-term system improvements more difficult. The real challenges in childcare are affordability, access, and quality. In Colorado, infant care averages about $20,000 per year, well more than in-state college tuition, at a time when families are likely earning the least. Providers cannot expand access, improve quality, or raise teacher wages without predictable public investment. Childcare is essential economic infrastructure. When it is stable, parents work, businesses retain employees, and children thrive. When it is disrupted, the consequences ripple for years and across generations. As you consider CCDF policy, I urge a balanced approach, protecting public funds without destabilizing the system families and employers rely on. The path forward is increased investment, effective oversight, and a shared commitment to affordability, access, and quality. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I welcome your questions.
So, Ms. Denson, how would increased funding for federal child care programs allow your business and small childcare businesses across the country to better serve children, families, and childcare workers?
Senator Markey, I love this question. Thank you so much for directing it to me. Increased federal funding for childcare would result in immediately opportunities for those who work in the childcare industry. You mentioned how low early educators are paid. We have systemically undervalued teachers in the early education field. Giving the opportunity to fund and pay these teachers what they're worth when they're investing so much into the most critical brain development time of a child's life would be an incredible opportunity. I could also see increased funding, creating opportunity for increased quality. A lot of quality measures can be expensive, and if a center isn't really dedicated to making sure that happens, it can be a hard choice between paying your staff and paying for quality measures. So I would see an almost immediate increase in teacher wages and definitely some outcomes related to increased quality with early childhood education.
Okay, great. Now, thank you for.
This freeze is a temporary solution. How is the uncertainty and the chaos of this announced freeze, has that impacted your centers and the families that you're serving?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I joke with some of my colleagues in Colorado that January was kind of hijacked in dealing and ensuring that we're communicating with our families, our children, our staff, and our community donors. As we think about transparency at Early Connections, it goes both ways for us. We want to be transparent with our licensing and everything above us, and then everyone that interacts with our organization, our community, and our families. When I think about what the impact of a statewide immediate freeze of these funds would be on our organization, it absolutely would be catastrophic for us, but also for our entire state. As I've mentioned, and as we've all mentioned, childcare is a critical piece of economic infrastructure, and without it, our entire state's economy would crumble. Parents would not be able to work, and it would just continue to ripple outward, even beyond the lines of our state or any state whose funds were abruptly frozen.
Ms. Denson, your organization has nearly 130 years of experience as a child care provider and has developed an operational model that delivers for families and your community. I also recognize that running a successful child care center is no easy feat, with many providers facing workforce shortages and operating costs that continue to increase. What role do federal child care investments have in your ability to operate and serve hardworking families who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford the care?
Thank you so much for that question, Senator. I think that when we think about how federal investment impacts providers like Early Connections, serving hundreds of children for over 130 years almost, it's a critical piece of our funding mix. We are a nonprofit organization, and we're able to utilize other funding streams in order to support the full cost of care. But I want to be really clear that even with the federal dollars that are currently being received, they don't cover the full cost of high quality care. Parents also can't pay for the full cost of high quality care. And so we're already so woefully underfunded that we're blending and braiding and clawing it together to support the families who need us the most as much as we possibly can. But it's also at the expense of what we're able to pay our teachers and where we're able to spend our time and effort to ensure we're providing the highest quality services for those families.
That too is very helpful. There is more we can do and we should do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
really,
you.
Really critical. Thank you.